Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. On this day, Friday, our Friday edition, where we do a weekend review of the weekend sports coming up. We got some great weekly guests coming on today. We got Byron Williams from our NFL analyst, who was a former wide receiver for the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles, and our other weekly guest, Keith Engle from TGI Sports, who will be looking at the Patriots with us. So I'm Mac with my co-host, Jack. This, again, is the Mac and Jack Sports Show. This gives you all your Northeastern local sports, New York, Boston, and Philly. You can follow us live on Mac Sports face page. Just go to username at MacMan62 and do a Facebook search. It'll bring you right to us. You can Google Mac and Jack Sports, find us live on YouTube and Twitch. You can also see our past shows. Follow us on Instagram at Mac and Jack Sports to see all the local Northeast professional teams, news and updates. Like, follow, share, and subscribe where you can. And we even got a new website up at macandjacksports.com, where you can go in and check our weekly insiders, to include my co-host, who is Jack Hirsch. And Jack has been a legendary boxing writer, expert analyst in the boxing field for a long time. And he's also the former national, Jack,
president of the Boxing Writers Association
of America. Exactly.
Now, you're getting worse than that, Mac. You will like I like
the
time.
I like the
6 words away.
I like the national part of it. I don't know why, Jack. It's a favorite.
It is national.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And did a great job yesterday, Jack, filling in for the Iceman and bringing us up to date on all the boxing news. So. Again, Jack, this is our Friday show. It's our weekend review, and we're going to go and do some updates from the following night. And, of course, the biggest update we got is Green Bay beats the depleted 49ers 34-17. The Packers moving to 6-2. The 49ers dropping to 4-5. The 49ers scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter. Leg injuries to Kittle. To an ankle injury to their starting quarterback, Garoppolo. Their running game, they tried to run in the Packers and do what the Vikings did to them the Sunday before, but it didn't work out. Aaron Rodgers kind of picked them apart. He was on fire last night. And Green Bay's back on top again, Jack.
Aaron Rodgers said it best. He didn't use these exact words, but he basically said, don't give us too much credit. We beat the 49ers B team. He didn't use those exact words. He wouldn't insult the guys on the field by calling them that. But he recognized they were decimated. It was no big deal. How do you like that Devontae Adams? He has a great game. And after the game, he says, I think I'm the best receiver in all of football.
Well, don't they all?
How come we never hear a receiver with one catch for the game after the game saying, I think I'm the best receiver in football? Instead, they complain about their lack of touches.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different breed with wide receivers, Jack. We all know that. And I think the biggest part is because they're not on the field next to the line. They're outside. They're one-on-one with a lot of cornerbacks. We're running through zone coverage. And I guess it's a place where you got to have that kind of attitude. In today's game, anyway. I mean, Jerry Rice wasn't like that. Steve Largent wasn't like that. They just went out and they played for the team and they did their job and did it really well. And it just looks like the wide receivers of today, well, at least some of them, Jack, have that type of attitude.
It's not easy. I mean, you want to beat a guy. Obviously everyone wants to win. But when you look at guys, the contract they're going to get, the recognition they're going to get, it's based on stats. A team could be a Super Bowl winner, but if a receiver's only having 3 catches a game and he's a star receiver, for one given game, he could be okay with it. But all in all, he's not going to be happy. And I sometimes laugh when I hear athletes say they don't care what their stats are as long as the team wins. Really, the team can win. And if their stats are down, they're going elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Odell Beckham seemed to have resigned himself to the fact that he wasn't going to be the major part of the Browns winning, that they turned to the ground and pound game, which they have an excellent running game. But that Odell, when they lose and he doesn't get the catches, still throws the fit on the sideline as he did before he got hurt.
Well, Odell's very close with Jarvis Landry. So
Right.
I was surprised. He didn't mind sharing the touches with Jarvis Landry. But when we think of Odell Beckham, and I don't know how he exactly got on him, there's that giant link. Had Odell not had the hissy fits on the sideline, had there not been an issue with his personality, he'd still be with the Giants. They would just never voluntarily trade him away. He probably would have been a career Giant. And I'm curious how he would have fared under Daniel Jones. He would have been the primary receiver. The team wouldn't have won anymore, but I think he would have been a little happier with his own personal role.
I think so too, because unless he went to a championship team, Jack, which the Browns look far from a championship team this year. If he went to a championship team, I could see him not minding and maybe conforming a little bit better as he's tried to show during the being with the Browns. And that leg injury, and I talked about Kittle's leg injury, and now Garoppolo has that ankle injury. It seems to me, Jack, since the rules have been changed, and this may be a little controversial in a way, the leg injuries have increased a lot in the NFL, and it has to do, I think, with something to do with the concussion issue of leading with the helmet. And players now are going for the legs and knees, which they never did to this extent, because they're going to get fined, they're going to get penalized, and they may even get kicked out of the game if they hit the player high with their helmet, and even if they try to avoid hitting that receiver or running back with their helmet, and then you could tell the turn in their body. If they make contact head to head, here comes the fines. You might get ejected. You're going to get a 15-yard penalty. And so I think the players now are starting to go lower to the knees and to the legs, and a lot of players don't like that either, Jack.
There are a lot of defensive players have gotten flagged as a result of the man with the ball dipping down.
Right.
I mean, they're like trying to tackle him basically at mid-range. So the man with the ball ducks down. There's contact with the helmet. There's a penalty. And you're right, absolutely right, Mac. You see them trying to go low and lower. What I'd like to see a new rule put in called a deception rule, that whoever has the ball, you can't deceive the defender like you're going to go out of bounds and then cut back in, because the defenders are now trained to kind of let up just a little bit as soon as you wrap your arms around someone.
Yeah, and Jack, you don't see – now this penalty is supposed to be for any player lowering his head. Now, I played football for a long time, Jack, and when I was running with the football, when I was ready to make contact, I knew it was coming. Of course, I lowered my shoulders because I want to try to keep my feet behind me so I can bounce off the tackler or get that extra yard. And they're not calling the penalties against the running backs or wide receivers. And a perfect example of that was a game you were talking about where a receiver, I can't think of the guy right now, but he lowered his head. The guy actually just stood there, and the receiver actually hit him in the head with his helmet, and he got flagged for it.
Right. I think it was that Giant Eagle game. I don't recall I remember the play. I don't recall exactly who the players were, but I remember thinking about that too. What could the cornerback have done in that situation?
I agree.
Couldn't really done anything differently. It was the receiver who had the ball who really initiated that contact, yet it was called on the defender.
Yeah, so to me, it was a terrible call, and it's putting and I understand the lawsuits, and I understand the lifelong injury you can get from too many concussions. I got my bell rung a few times playing football. I guess that could be considered a concussion. Because of the lawsuits, the NFL has no other option but to call these things in case another lawsuit comes along. So they're protecting their own.
I'm going to have on a medical expert in this to draw the comparison between boxing and football. Someone gets knocked out in boxing, it's an automatic 90-day suspension. sometimes 180 days, but at least 90 days. They get knocked out in football basically the same way. They're on the ground. They're eligible to play the next week. I know that the NFL has done a better job of safety than in the past with the concussion protocols. But if someone gets knocked out cold, how can they pass the exams to be able to play the following Sunday? So we're going to get into that. I'm going to bring on one of the medical experts who I know. I don't want to say his name yet because I need him to okay it.
Right.
Give a call and we're going to discuss that issue.
That sounds great. Head coach John Gruden gets hit with a $150,000 fine, and the Raiders are fined $500,000, Jack, because he is a repeat offender of the COVID policy of, I guess he's taking his mask off while he's talking. And, I don't understand. You got a lot of things going on. I mean, I know we don't have fans in the stands, but that sideline gets loud. And if you want to talk to the referee or you want to talk to one of your players and you got that mask over your head, it's hard to hear. I have to wear it where I work. In my other job, I have to wear a mask. And communication is very hard. So, I mean, I understand what the NFL is doing. But again, all those players don't have masks on during the game or on the sidelines. So, I don't know. I
don't think John Gruden cares about the money. He's like the guy who's wealthy, who's going to see a Broadway play. He wants to park on the block of the play, figuring I'll take the $150 ticket because it's going to cost me about $80 to park in the parking lot, and the difference is going to be convenience. For me, the 6th-round draft choice might bother him a little bit. 6th-round draft choices have no more than a 50-50 chance of making the team altogether. It's not exactly a power pick. You hope you could get a little lucky with that, such as New England did with Tom Brady, but that's an aberration, of course.
Yeah.
But, okay, I mean, the NFL took some type of action. It's good. Let's see if Oakland, how do you like that? Las Vegas heeds the warning for that. John Gruden's kind of a bit of a flake, is. So he's probably just chuckling and laughing in the office about it.
You said Oakland Raiders, and I still refer the Cardinals sometimes as the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah. They're not.
You're thinking New York Giants are the baseball team. You have to hold yourself back, man.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah. J.J. Watt, not interested in rebuilding, wants a championship after 10 years in the league. I think he should have thought about that before he helped fire the head coach. I mean, listen, the Texans were not a Super Bowl team, but at least they were in the playoffs every year. And if you get that head coach is gone, of course you're going to rebuild. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know if he wants to be traded. I don't know if he's sending signals out there to the team that he wants to be traded. But I don't understand why he's complaining about something that he basically had a hand in helping do.
I'm going to defend J.J. Watt over here. They were 0-4, and Bill O'Brien, their coach at the time, got into a heated argument with J.J. Watt. Now, O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason, and he didn't get value back in return. You're trading arguably the best receiver in the game, or one of the best at the very least.
Yeah.
And you're trading him to Arizona. You don't even get a first-round draft choice. That wouldn't have been enough a first-round draft choice for someone to caliber DeAndre Hopkins. And they were up to a bad start. Bill O'Brien is making some other deals as well. I mean, J.J. Watt, whatever set off the argument with him and Bill O'Brien, I don't know. But when O'Brien was let go, no one was saying positive things in regard to O'Brien. And O'Brien was on a hot seat before the season began. And he'd taken his team to the playoffs, and they won a game last year, and he was on the hot seat.
Right.
So I think J.J. Watt's been a great citizen with his team. He hasn't been a troublemaker. He's been a mentor to other players and so on. To say he got the coach fired just because they got into a dispute. Ownership, I guess they were tired of O'Brien. If it came down to J.J. Watt or someone like that, who are they going to side with? That's like Larry Fitzgerald with the Cardinals. getting into a dispute if he ever got into one with Cliff Kingsbury. You know the character of Larry Fitzgerald. So you would tend to side with guys like that because they're character guys, and that's what J.J. Watt is.
Now, listen, I agree with everything you said there, Jack. I'm just saying that if that head coach gets fired, and he was a GM too, which he did a real poor job, a worse job at GM than he did coaching. If he's going to get fired, you're going to rebuild. That's just the natural way. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying, Jack.
Mac, let me tell you, I think we all make too much out of a statement. Someone probably asked J.J. Watt a question. Are you going to be satisfied with just rebuilding?
Right.
Okay. And J.J. Watt will say, no, I don't want to be in a situation where we rebuild. I want to win now. That's such a bad thing to say to a veteran player who's been in the league 10 years or so.
Well, of course. All I'm saying, Jack, and I agree again with what you're saying. All I'm saying is that that's the natural course that it's going to take. And maybe the question was stupid. I don't know. But I'm just saying that when you go on and you say, I'm tired of rebuilding, every time a head coach gets let go, that's what you're going to do. You're going to rebuild. And whether he meant that as a bad thing, or maybe the question was, slanted to make him answer that way, I don't know. I'm just saying that's just common sense. That's the natural cause.
Houston's problem is that they're 1-6 this year, Mac. They're not as bad as their record is. They've got an elite quarterback in Deshaun Johnson. So if they were looking to draft a quarterback, I mean, they have leadership at the top and so on. But a guy like J.J. Watt's thinking, how many years do I have left in the league? I want to win now. And in a position that going forward next year, they could be there contending for a playoff position again.
Yeah. I agree with you there. And Jackson is one of the better quarterbacks, or more exciting quarterbacks.
Deshaun Watson.
That's Deshaun Watson, really.
So is Lamar Jackson.
You're right. I thought I heard Deshaun Johnson, so it made me say Jackson. The Jets' bright spot in the dark season, they're saying is a lot of people are looking at the tape, and Becton is playing very good for a rookie. If you're a Jet fan, I know the season is hard to watch. I mean, you got to look for something that makes you look forward to the future. Of course, they're going to need a lot more than Becton to come around and play great for the Jets to improve. But there is a bright spot there for the Jets.
Let me tell you, Mac, any bad team is going to have a bright spot.
Sure.
Someone's got to carry the ball. Someone's got to catch the ball. Someone's got to block. I mean, the worst team in sports of all time was probably the 1962 Mets. Okay, the following year, 1963, they were nearly as awful. They started out in 1962. That was their first year. They had a second baseman, Ron Hunt, who got edged out by Pete Rose for Rookie of the Year. So he was a one bright spot you look at, but the bottom line, the team's awful. Someone has got to do something for any team at all. And it's, especially in football, I mean, it's such a group effort, unlike something like basketball where you could get 2-3 guys and just surround them with anyone.
Yeah.
It might not, and they can still win. In football, it's just a massive effort that all has to come together.
Definitely agree with that. Jack, in the NBA, the players approved a December 22nd start to the season, playing on Christmas Day. Owners and players still have to negotiate the salary cap, luxury tax, and the start of free agency. They're going to try to play on Christmas to bring the ratings up a little bit. I don't know, Jack. It seems like we just got done with basketball, of course, and they want to get the season on track right away. I don't know if they're going to try to do the bubble again. I haven't heard nothing about how they're going to do this. It's going to be a huge undertaking, but that's what they've negotiated.
That would be brutal, Mac. It seems like they just got out of the bubble, like the Lakers Heat. And can you imagine in 6-7 weeks they're going back in it again for long term? And I think the problem the NBA is facing, why it's urgent for them to start it around the Christmas holiday is because they want to finish before the Tokyo Olympics.
Right.
Okay. Unlike this year where it went well into the summer, it can't happen again.
Yeah.
With the Olympics coming up, the whole conflict and everything, it just wouldn't work. We're going to have normalcy as far as baseball goes.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going to have the late start. And
I mean, their ratings dropped 40% this year, and that's with people being home. A lot of people being home with the COVID. They're trying to restructure the contracts where they're going to take, somewhat of a, I don't want to say cut, but they're going to try and divide it into years instead of maybe trimming their salaries into 1 year. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. The ESPN to undergo significant layoffs. They're talking about 300 staffers, Jack. A former broadcaster, I'm not going to name him, kind of ripped them about the way they're doing business over there. Hey, listen, every business is really hurting, Jack, even the bigger ones. And, the stars of the shows are taking on a little bit more work, whether they're doing radio shows along with their broadcasts. And, it's just something that you have to do once in a while. So,
Mac, I kid you not. A few months ago, I read a book. Okay, I don't know how I picked up an old book. I was at this place called the Thrift Factory where there's a lot of old stuff. I was walking by, and I went in, and there were some books, and I grabbed the book for a couple of dollars, written by a former president of ESPN, and his name escapes me. It was the book itself, not the guy, and he's writing about all the elements over the history of ESPN that he experienced. And he keeps talking about the family atmosphere, how important it was for the employees to know that they're valued and so on. And now you hear 300 of being let go. So much for being valued. And when you think of the broadcasters, you got a clown like Keyshawn Johnson on there. And, an absolute eye guy. An eye guy 100% all the way. And I can't imagine him being a team player within the offices, of Bristol, Connecticut, where they have it or whatever.
Right.
And he's not even that good at what he does.
Yeah.
And when he was with the Jets, he would have a hissy fit whenever the ball would be thrown to Wayne Corbett. Yeah. It would have to be me. It was sickening to watch. And now you're watching him on the broadcast. They're trying to elevate him to being a star. And I was a Jet fan. I rooted for Keyshawn Johnson. Believe me, I rooted for him. He'd catch the ball. I would clap. I would cheer. Nice going, Keyshawn. But it gets me sick to see this guy, up there being elevated to the position he is. And it's not like he's that talented in comparison to, let's say, Randy Moss. Randy Moss actually is a very good broadcaster there.
Yeah.
Job. So Keyshawn Johnson, the ultimate eye guy. Randy Moss was an eye guy too, but the difference is Keyshawn Johnson was a very good receiver. And to his credit, he did block tenaciously when it called for it on the field. I give Keyshawn a lot of credit for what he did on the field with blocking. But Randy Moss was one of the greatest receivers of all time.
Agree, 100% agree. Army Air Force game has been postponed due to COVID, and I want to talk a little bit about the military schools and their football programs. These guys, they don't work out all year round on scholarships like the other college football teams do. They're a lot lighter in certain circumstances on the line. But I'll tell you right now, they're tenacious, Jack. They run the option. All three schools basically run the option, even on 3rd and long. And they give these big universities, Alabama, Notre Dame, Michigan, all these big universities, USC, they give them fits because of their athleticism, their way they work together, and the way they run that old triple option. It's not a wishbone; it's almost the opposite of the wishbone in formation with total motion and zone blocking. They're incredible. I love to watch them play. I love to watch Navy, Army, and Air Force, especially when they go up against the big schools and sometimes even upset them. So not only are they doing studies to become officers, learning whatever field they're in, which takes, at least 12 hours a day, but then they're putting in an extra 4 to 6 hours in practice to try to become good at to be able to compete with the other
Well, I
schools.
don't think they really upset the big schools, Mac. I think they bother them, they annoy them, they fluster them for a while. I don't think they have a history of really upsetting.
No,
the
but
big
they do once in a
schools.
while, Jack. They do once in a while. I mean, I know they've beaten Alabama once. I know they've beaten Notre Dame a few times, and those are all that they're there to play football, Jack.
You mentioned Alabama just now. We never give kudos to Nick Saban. He's never lost to one of his assistants. He's never
well,
lost to one of his assistants. And he's had some pretty good assistant coaches. But when they get their own school and they play Alabama, Nick Saban finds a way to beat them.
that is true. And,
Nick Saban isn't the most likable guy, but he's a winner.
yes, he is. But
NFL, not with the Dolphins.
But I'll tell you, Jack, I don't know if that's a compliment or maybe it's not a good thing that he doesn't coaches well enough to beat him in games. So, Jack,
in Alabama reported to find out who's the greater coach back during Nick Saban Alabama. Oh no, I read
yes,
this
Jack.
trivia question.
Yes, Jack.
I don't know the answer. Let me read my envelope. Like,
oh, Jack, I love you, man. Listen, Jack, we have our trivia question of the day, Jack. And again, I'm going to keep it
I have a loss of confidence, Matt.
our history
I'm coming
game.
Close, though. I'm coming
yes,
close.
Yes. And you should be able to get this one, Jack. It's from.
That means I definitely missed that.
This is from 1994, Jack. 1994.
Wait, start over.
From 1994. Which NBA player scored 71 points in a single game in 1994, Jack?
71 points. Okay, wait. I'm thinking, of course, George Gervin.
Right.
I'm thinking, didn't Kobe Bryant let it up?
Yeah, Kobe has let it up a few times, but in 1994 he wasn't the player, Jack.
1994, the Iceman George Gervin, unless it's David Thompson.
No, sir. You want to try another guess, Jack?
Thompson was before 1994.
But
the Iceman, George Gervin, right?
No, sir.
71 points?
71 points, sir.
In 1994. That was that was MJ's time.
Yes, it was during MJ's time, Jack.
What was MJ's high? I remember 63 against the Celtics in the playoffs. Not Adrian Dantley.
You're saying it's not him, or are you saying it is him?
Adrian Dantley.
No, it's not him, Jack.
No, you just saved me there. I
am teasing you. So it was the Admiral, Jack, David Robinson in 1994.
You got me there.
Yes,
David Robinson guy had 71 points.
Yes, he did, Jack. Yeah, he did. And, he was a great basketball player. I didn't realize that either until I looked it up, Jack. So.
Because I know Kobe Bryant went for 81 in one game since
1984. Yeah. Right. So, David Robinson, the great David Robinson.
That's a good one. That is a good one. You don't think of David Robinson being a tremendous scorer. Obviously, he was a very good scorer, defender, Hall of Famer, member of the Dream Team in 1992. But when you think of a guy who really lights it up, you don't think of David Robinson in that manner.
No, you don't.
A big guy up front, yeah.
Right, a great center, and they had some really great teams too, Jack, back then. I'm trying to do a little bit of production here, Jack, on the side here to get Byron in.
Let me just say something about David Robinson, and I was a little too tough on Keyshawn Johnson. I got a little carried away. I give Keyshawn Johnson a half of an apology.
Okay.
A little too carried away because he does have some talent as a broadcast. Okay.
Right.
Give him a half of an apology, but still let him know he was a complete eye guy when he was a player. His attitude left a lot to be decided. But David Robinson was a shining example, Mac, of an attitude a player should have. When Tim Duncan came up, David Robinson, who was a star with the San Antonio Spurs, deferred to Tim Duncan because he could see that Tim Duncan was going to be a superstar in his own right. And despite being a great, great player, David Robinson was willing to take a little bit of a backup role to Tim Duncan. So that kudos to David Robinson for not being a great player, but having a great attitude.
I definitely agree with that, Jack. And we may not have Byron on because he needed me send a link to his phone, and I can't do that from here right now. So Byron, if you're listening out there, my friend.
We got to get Byron on. Oh, come on.
I know. The only way I can get you in right now, Byron, would be through email. So if you can join us. If you can't, we'll go ahead and we'll push on.
I was looking forward to my apology from Byron Mack.
Yes.
After laughing at me about talking about relief pitches for quarterbacks.
Right.
Having you join. You admitted I was kind of right with Nick Foles, that he's the perfect equivalent of a relief pitcher, like in baseball. You have him warming up in the bullpen. Your starter's struggling. He could give you a spark.
Right. He can even take over and go to the Super Bowl for you. But as a starting quarterback, Jack, his record sure does not represent that he's a starting quarterback.
Frank Reich, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, he was an elite backup quarterback to Jim Kelly on the Buffalo Bills.
Good point.
And you kind of wonder, and he's accepted the role. Him and Jim Kelly were very close, which I think is important if the quarterbacks can have a really good relationship.
Right.
But I kind of always wondered how it would have turned out for Frank Reich had he started, had he moved around. Would he be the equivalent of, let's say, a Ryan Fitzpatrick?
That's a good point too, Jack. I mean, you do have some backups that have in the past. Jeff Hostetler, for instance, with the Giants, when Sims got hurt in the 1990 season and the Giants were in first place and looked like they were going to win out, came in, did his job and got him to the Super Bowl, and they won the Super Bowl with Jeff Hostetler, and Jeff Hostetler was not a great starting quarterback by any means. So that's another example of what you're talking about. It is important to have a good backup, Jack, that's for sure. But I do think that if you're on a great team, it helps out a lot. If you're a backup quarterback, say for like the Jets, it wouldn't help too much to have a good relief quarterback, Jack.
Well, you want a backup quarterback who can win. I mean, some of these teams are so woefully unprepared with their backup. If their starter goes down, there's such a pathetic drop in the quality between first and second string. And it amazes me the lack of emphasis some teams put on the backup. Now, some teams are very ready with their backup, and they have good, competent backups. I mean, you look at the New Orleans Saints, for example. Drew Brees, okay, he's questionable for the game Sunday against Tampa, but we know he's going to play. But let's say he couldn't play. They have Jameis Winston, the Saints.
Yeah,
and he's played years as a starter. So that to me would be an ideal backup. A guy who's done it, at a high level, has played, has won on a high level. I don't mean, playoff games, so on, but has played a lot of regular season games. And you can win with him. He might not be quite as good as your first string guy, but nevertheless, the drop in quality isn't that great.
Yeah, even New Orleans last year, Jack, when Teddy Bridgewater came in, they went 4 or 5-0. But again, Jack, that's a great team. If you're a good backup for a poor team, a team that's not together, even if you come in, the starter gets hurt, you're not going to have that much success. San Francisco last night, I mean, not just the backup quarterback, but, running backs aren't there. The tight end ain't there. So even if he was a decent backup quarterback and he did win in college a lot, that does affect your play on the field.
Mac, did you play quarterback in your day?
Yes. I played quarterback for 8 years, Jack. So
I figured. You want to know why? I know it had to be a joke, but there was this rumor going around in the studio that the Dallas Cowboys, you inquired,
Yes, they did talk to me. Jerry Jones promised me, a ride on his yacht, but that wasn't.
There's a mess going on at Dallas. Who's starting Sunday?
Oh my God!
I mean, they're going from the third string quarterback to their practice squad, fourth string, looking at the waiver wire.
Oh,
I mean, and and they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cowboys.
I know.
Listen, this is going to be a test to Mike McCarthy, the job he's doing as a coach this Sunday when they play the Steelers. Because let's be honest about it, the Cowboys are not going to move the ball in the air at all.
Yeah.
That Steeler defense can focus on the run.
Yeah.
And let's see how hard they play. If they play hard from beginning to end and they lose a game something like 19-6, just playing hard the whole way and extending the Steelers, then that's a good sign. But
yeah. Jack, I don't, this used to be one of the fiercest rivalries, if you can call it that, in the AFC and NFC, because they went to the Super Bowls so many times and played each other in some great Super Bowls too. But, Pittsburgh, they may take Dallas lightly. That's the only chance Dallas has. There's no way legitimately that they can, come on and beat the Cowboys. And guess what? Byron popped up backstage. Excellent. So yes, sir. So we get to bring him on, and you get to give him a hard time, as you always do, Jack. So our NFL analyst, Byron Williams, former New York Giants wide receiver, Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, gives us great insights on the NFL. And let's bring in Byron right now. Good morning, Byron. I'm glad
Byron. Mac validated what I said about relief pitchers and quarterbacks on his own in a show. He was raving about Nick Foles, saying the best relief pitcher amongst quarterbacks in football. So that gets my point. He can't start, but if the quarterback's struggling that day, you bring in Nick Foles, and in the following week, Nick Foles isn't starting. He's on there on the bench getting ready. I kind of like that. I think that's like a new good trend. What do you think?
I think so. I think that's what keep these guys on their toes. I mean, that's a good thing. It's a good thing in football anyway.
Yeah. Hey, Byron, we were talking about it. I brought this up during yesterday's show. The Bears right now have a good team. I mean, they got a good defense. They have a good running game. But Nick Foles is missing the open guys. And as a starter, Nick Foles hasn't fared too well in his career. And you got Mitch Trubisky sitting there on the bench. Even when they replaced him, they were winning. He's a totally different quarterback. I'll ask you, do you think they should start Mitch Trubisky?
I think they should play both of them. I think Mitch is a superb quarterback. I think Nick Foles have his gloves on. Do you realize that he throws his gloves on? Yeah. So I think too they to keep the team fresh and keep them excited. I think they should go ahead and put Mitch in there. I met him a couple years at the Super Bowl. A great personality, great guy. He's well liked by his teammates. So I think they should, because Nick Foles is more like a relief pitcher, so I think they should definitely play Mitch.
Does it confuse the offense if quarterbacks were shuttled in and out?
Of course.
I mean, because some of these I've never seen a coach try to be quite that innovative. Like 2 plays, one quarterback, 2 plays, another. Would it keep the defense on their toes, or would it just confuse the offense with the quarterbacks being switched back and forth? I just deny a thought.
I think that's a great point, Jack. I think if you will confuse the defense, because both quarterbacks can bring some dynamics to the offense, and it keep the defense trying to figure out what they're gonna do, or how they gonna throw the ball or run the ball, and I think that'll be great. I think it'll be a good. When you got 2 dynamic quarterbacks like Chicago has, I think that would be something that they should try.
Byron, come on, Byron. I mean, offense is all about execution. It's all about consistency, and that's what your edge is. That the play, and when the count is going. All the advantages you have on offense. If you're going to start putting 2 different quarterbacks in there who call a snap count different, that approach the game a little different, one reads better than the other, one runs better than the other, I think that would hinder an offense, or they would be doing that already.
Well, Mac, wait. Byron was an NFL receiver, so you're saying you know more about it than he does.
I'm saying what I'm saying, Jack, is being a player and a coach before, nowhere close to Byron's level, but being coached before, the only two advantages, or you have a few advantages in offense that the defense doesn't have. And if you're going to move one quarterback to play one series and one to play the another, you're going to have to, in practice, you're going to have to give them both the same amount of snaps. You're going to have to get used to two different snap counts. You're going to have to get to two different decision-making processes. And if one's athletic and the other one isn't, you're going to be holding. The receivers are going to, should I run downfield? Should I stay? Should I block? I mean, you're going to give up a lot of the advantages you have as an offense, or great coaches would have done that already, Jack. And that's all I'm saying.
Well, I think that's a great point, but I also think with the two types of quarterback that Chicago have, I think they need to try something different on the offensive side because they're not putting up the points like they should. But also, I think too, when you compete and one quarterback can do something better than the next quarterback, I think that's an option for them to have. I think to bring a dynamic to this COVID year and season, I think Chicago should try it though.
Well, what about Dallas? I mean,
oh my God, Jack.
On Sunday, you might have a quarterback showing up in the locker room they haven't met before, introducing himself to the guys on the offense. I mean,
I know
what can they do against that vaunted Steeler defense? Obviously, they're going to run a lot. But
yeah, they're going to have to run a lot. As soon as I got landed last night at 10 o'clock, that's all I was hearing on the news last night. They got three quarterbacks. They don't know what to do. They got Garrett and this other guy. So, I mean, it's really sad for the Cowboys. I feel sorry for them just living here and playing against that Steelers defense. It's going to be a madhouse Sunday.
Honest to God, Byron, I will never, ever feel sorry for the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't blame Jerry Jones. I mean, he got Andy Dalton as a backup. That's one of the best backups you can actually have. He did his job. You can't invest much in a third-string quarterback. You can invest in a primary backup. But you never figure you're going to have to really use your third-string quarterback unless it's an emergency. And
exactly.
Hey, Byron, Daniel Jones made two crucial mistakes against the Bucs, giving them 10 points. Trying to make plays. What is that noise? Trying to make plays and getting immense pressure, grabbing him while he's throwing the ball. Phil Simms, who, he had problems in the beginning of his career, too, with turnovers and trying to make the big plays. What do you think they're going to do with Daniel Jones? I mean, it's okay to make the plays, and he's a great athlete. I think he's going to be really good, but he can't be throwing the ball away. You see a lot of similarities between him and Phil Simms. You were a receiver with him, between Daniel Jones and Phil Simms right now.
Right. I think too that Daniel Jones you can't make mistakes and mistakes that's critical in critical games. I mean, when you got a 3-point within a touchdown variation of scores, you cannot make those types of mistakes. So Joe Judge is putting a little bit of pressure on him, and that's what goes with the territory. If you a first-round draft choice, that's a lot of responsibility. So I think Joe Judge is taking the right approach with him, and he threatening him and making sure that he's accountable for his actions. And you can't do that critical situation when you got a chance to win the games. I mean, the Giants can easily be 4-3 or 3-4, whatever. They could have won a couple more games, and they had a chance to win this game this past week against the Tampa Bay Bucs.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong, but for quarterback, I don't think you can teach instincts. And I think the difference between the elite quarterbacks and the average ones, so when they're under pressure, making that snap-second decision. I mean, some quarterbacks, the elite ones, can beat the blitz. They're going to find a way. They'll at least throw the ball away. And others they're a split second slow, and they tend to panic and try to force the ball. I think a lot of that is instincts, and you can only coach that up so much, in my opinion.
Absolutely right. We at the beginning of the season, we talk about pocket presence and the rush and where it's coming from and being able to a split second. And that's where I think it's real critical right now for Daniel Jones. And I think, too, that's where he got to study film. He got to watch films. He got to know where the pressure's coming from. He got to move an inch or two, inside the pocket and pocket presence. So that's part of him getting the timing down and being able to dump off to the running back or the tight end sometimes. Sometimes you hold the ball too long or something like that, or either they swiping at the ball. Those things like that, he just got to really study a little bit more in depth during the week.
Hey, Byron, the Bills are having growing pains right now. They're not playing as well as they did in the beginning of the year. The Pats, of course, are in a down year. Is Miami the new favorite in the AFC East?
Miami got some momentum. I still think the Bucs are going to be tough to beat, because of, they play Seattle this week. So they having a tough part of their schedule, I think, with the Bills. And so, but Miami, I tell you, they got a lot of momentum, and that defense is playing good down there in Miami. So I think with Tua coming on board and the momentum is changing, it's all about, the enthusiasm with the team and the morale of the team. So right now, Miami is really making news and headway.
There's something I never thought about until the other day. Is there a difference to a receiver whether the quarterback is right-handed or left-handed? Is there any preference at all in the slightest that doesn't matter? I never gave it any thought till thinking of Tua the other day.
It is a little bit different, a little bit of spin on the ball. I had a left-handed quarterback in college, and it was, you just have to make an adjustment because they can throw the ball really, really hard going to the left side, and then they have to throw across their body when they're throwing to the right side. So, but usually it's not that difficult for a receiver to make that adjustment.
Yeah. In the NFC least, I call it now, Byron. It looks like the Eagles are the best team in the worst division, and does it really matter? I mean, anybody that wins the NFC East, I don't think has a chance in the playoffs to beat some of these other divisions. What's your opinion on that?
I think so. Right now, the NFC East is not having that way. And the schedule that they have exactly, with playing teams, the Steelers and those other teams like that, it's going to be tough. But the Eagles, somehow, if they get some of those injured players back on the roster, I think they might be okay. But the second half of the season, always the team that have the momentum, the team that the healthiest, and the teams that playing the schedule, is really going to be the component. And, with COVID, they send players down and they're testing procedures. So it's going to be a lot of timing of being healthy and some lucky games.
Yeah. Halfway through the season, 8 games, Byron. Who's the best team in the AFC? Who's the best team in the NFC?
Well, I definitely like Seattle. They was talking about the game between New Orleans and Tampa this week gonna be a key game. So definitely, you got to see Seattle and I still like we talked about the Buffalo Bills as well as the Miami Dolphins, but Baltimore Ravens is gonna be playing, and the Pittsburgh Steelers right now is playing the best football, and it's a reflection of the defense as well as what Ben is doing up there. Big Ben is doing an awesome job with his players. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking really good, and I'm real close to Franco Harris, and I know they're happy about the Steelers and what they're doing. So right now the Steelers are looking like the best team because they're gonna definitely win this week. They'll be undefeated again this week.
No mention of the Kansas City Chiefs here. Come on.
Yeah, you definitely got to put Kansas City in there, because but there haven't been a back-to-back Super Bowl winner in the NFL, so I think they're vulnerable, and I think but Kansas City, if you're talking to anybody that love the Kansas City Chiefs, they gonna win the Super Bowl.
Right.
I think AFC gonna win this year anyway.
Well, I hear you. Byron, before we let you go, we do have over at the website at MacLeodsports.com. Byron's on the website, and we have a link to his foundation, the Best Wishes Foundation. Could you tell the people a little bit about that, Byron?
Yeah, the Best Wishes Foundation is the foundation that I started a couple of years ago. I used to still do a lot of football camps. I'm switching over from football mini camp to the Best Wishes Foundation, which to help these homeless kids in these schools. You know, we want to get ready to do some things for Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and we buy gifts for those kids and take it to the schools. Sometimes we have pizza parties. We go visit the stadium. They have a walkthrough at the stadium. We go and visit. I get a couple of the Dallas Cowboys, and we go out there and just talk, about living your goals, living your dreams, and respecting the teachers and getting the importance of education. So those are the things that we're doing. But I'm also working on right now a Super Bowl event down in Tampa, like we did last year. So I kind of got it connected with the football mini camp as well as Best Wishes Foundation, which is to kind of fill the gap for some of these homeless kids in the schools.
Excellent. And Byron, not only a great football player, a great NFL analyst, but the work you do in the community there, I can't say enough how great that is, because you don't hear stories like that a lot, Byron. We hear about the bad things. We hear about, players being selfish. But when we have players like you, former players like you that are involved in the community, it really makes me feel good about sports and about people. So, Byron, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Byron.
Go see Byron's, his link is on our website. That's Wishes Foundation. Check it out and support him in any way you can. So thank you, Byron, for coming on.
All right, I appreciate you guys, Mac and Jack. They are the best. We'll see you
Have
guys.
a great All right, Byron, have a great one, my friend. So there you go, the great Byron Williams, a great man in the community, and I think that says a lot about some. We always talk bad about players. There's me, and there's not enough stories out there about the work that current players and ex-players do for the community, and that's where true charity is, Jack.
And I'll bet anyone who ever played with him before would say he's a great teammate. Without me knowing, I know.
Yeah, and I mean he does have some records that he did set to and even though his time was short in the NFL, he played CFL, he played it in the other leagues also. He does have a couple records that puts him up with the top 3 receivers as far as 1,000 yards go, like in 3 seasons. So he did make his mark.
Well, the NFL is called not for long.
Right.
The vast majority. The idea he got to the top of the mountain, and that's
yes, sir.
Something that the vast majority of us can only dream of.
That is the truth. That is the truth, Jack. So the great Byron Williams at 9:15, we're scheduled to have on Patriots insider Keith Engle. I love having the Patriots and Giants on the same show. Sometimes at the same time.
I'm the official Jet outsider. Okay, I mean.
Yes, you are. So
you can't get a Jet insider because no one wants to take the position, Mac. You put it out there. You've been trying to recruit Jet Insider.
I'm still working on it, Jack.
No one.
I'm still working on it, Jack. I might have
working on it until these people go 0-16 and asking people to come in with their resumes.
I hear you, Jack. I hear you. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to have a quick commercial. We'll be back in about 3-4 minutes. And again, Keith Engle will be joining us. He's very insightful, very knowledgeable as it comes to the Patriots. In fact, he has a great show there at TGI Sports where he covers all sports. So we'll be right back on the other side of the commercials. Folks, stick with us, please. I'm doing the music, Jack. So there you go. So let's go get
it. Here we are.
Yes, sir.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with my legendary boxing writer, co-host, Jack Hirsch, and he is former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. So there you go, Jack. I got it right.
Jack, I think we just need these intros one time in the beginning. And then
Well, Jack, we might have other.
Just say I'm back with Jack.
We might have other viewers tuning in at different times, Jack.
Yeah.
So that's why I make sure that if they are tuning in, they know who we are and what they're listening to.
Listen, I was hoping that time slot would go 10 to 12. I want to first take on head on Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, Skip and Shannon. I want to take these guys on head on.
Well, my other job does not permit us to do that, Jack. So we're stuck here for a while anyway. So we got Keith Engle going to be coming up with us in a few minutes at about 9:15. Keith is the insider that we use to all the Patriots news. He has a great show at TGI Sports. Check it out if you get a chance. He covers all sports. He's not only a Patriot fan, but a Yankee fan. I don't know how that happened.
Mac, why couldn't we have started this show when the Patriots were going well these last 20 years? We're starting this show and having a great Patriot inside. I mean, I give Keith his due. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But he has nothing to work with this year.
He just,
poor guy's got nothing to work with.
well, he comes in and he
It would
comes
have
in.
been better for our ratings if, the Patriots in their heyday, we won all
Yeah.
the New England business. And
Yeah.
then the Jets with Rex Ryan. I mean, we would have had more to go on. We have nothing to work with, hardly.
Well, we're just.
Lead story amongst all the local teams is what, Carson Wentz? Are you kidding me? I mean, Buffalo.
Hey, listen,
good, okay?
listen, Jack. We have a lot of Philadelphia fans and that tune in for our take on them, and we do have the Buffalo Bills Mafia that does tune in and watch us every now and then. So we got to give a credit to where credit's due, and then we got to give the reasons or excuses, however you want to look at it, as to why some of the local teams are playing very badly. So with Byron, I don't know how you're convincing Byron about that relief quarterback thing going in two different plays. I mean, I think Byron is just being nice to you, Jack.
I think so. I think Byron likes me, but he's laughing. He's human.
Yes.
He's human. He's probably telling some other people talking about this show. Yeah. This guy Jack Hirsch. He's a nice guy, but he really doesn't know much about football. But I like him. He's all right. One of those type of things. I know the way it works because I'm that way with the sport of boxing. People are going to talk to me. Oh, I love boxing. This. I'm going to smile, go good points, but I'm thinking in my head, they don't know what they're talking about. But
yes.
But I'd love for him to tell me I didn't know what I was talking about.
Well, I think Byron's too nice a guy to do that to you, Jack.
Right, but
and
we need a joke. Listen, if I could criticize, tell Byron's got to understand. If he were playing and he was dropping the passes, I'd be on him. He's got to hold on to that ball.
Yeah.
So we've got to be able to take it back to you and I as well.
So while we got a couple minutes here, let's mention tomorrow's debate show. It's a fun show me and Jack do every Saturday. We come on and I tell you who the best is in certain positions and topics, and Jack turns around and tells you who he says is the best, and we debate that out. And we're on tomorrow, same time, 8 to 10. So if you get a chance, if you're getting up and having breakfast or whatever, tune us in, and we're going to debate tomorrow a couple things about the greatest left fielder in the history of baseball. We're going to be talking about the best local defensive tackle in the history of football, covering the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, the Bills, the Eagles, and there's a lot to choose from, and it's hard to there's really
defensive end.
Defensive tackle, nose guard, the inside guy, and they don't get a lot of credit on the defense because, of course, they play on the line. It's normally the people that do the pass rush that sack the quarterback that have the chance of making big plays, when in fact the inside defensive linemen have a huge part in the success of the defense, stopping the run, filling gaps so that the other people can blitz or you can get pressure from the outside. And, a lot of different positions in football don't get the credit they deserve unless you're a fan of that team. So we try to bring that out. We're going to be talking about, maybe the most underrated coach in all sports. And we're going to have fun with it. We have fun with it. Jack wins sometimes. I win once in a while. And a lot of times it comes out to a draw because when you're talking about topics like that, Jack, it normally comes from your perspective or your opinion. And normally you can make a case either way. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot better to me than watching a debate show where they're yelling at each other and they're calling each other stupid and stuff like that. We give you the facts, we give you the opinions. Sometimes we get a little carried away and start getting a little upset.
I would never call you stupid, Mac, ever. I mean, I might think I'm smarter than you, but that's
right.
About it.
I love it. I love it, Jack. And of course, we all know that's not true, but that's okay. We're going to have next coming up. He's backstage right now. One of the most knowledgeable guys in sports. We use him as our Patriots insider, especially this time of the year, because of course the Patriots football is the big thing out there right now. And he has the enviable task to come in and tell us why the Patriots may even still have a shot this year. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we'll bring him in and let's hear from Keith Engle. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Hi, Keith. Good morning.
It's funny. I came in and I heard stupid, and I'm like, man, what am I walking into here? They call me stupid. I haven't even got in the room yet.
No, I was kind of indirectly referring to Mac, telling him that I'm not calling him that.
Oh, okay.
And by telling someone you're not calling him that, you're kind of calling him that, but you're covered. You're covered. It's in trouble.
It's Jack.
Aggressive, Jack.
Yeah, beautiful. I was just gonna say that, man. You beat me to it. I mean, Jack is a hell of a guy, and he's got a lot of knowledge. It's very fun debating him because he brings it every Saturday for us.
I've seen it, and plus,
I'm living in the past with my teams. I'm going to tell you, I'm living in the past, and
well, I'm joining you. So
don't get it together by next year, you're going to be living in the past about the glory years.
Yeah, it's getting. I've said for years, I've said here, I knew for a long time we're going to be like everybody else very soon, and we're there, and we're 2-5, and as
you're not
one of my least favorite people.
I mean, he'll find a way to get it done. People feel this is a step backwards this year, but it was inevitable. They were headed in that direction, and I don't know whether I believe what he said, blaming it on the salary cap issues, because everyone has those issues. But if he's correct, if he's telling the truth, and that genuinely is the reason, that's a heck of a reason. I would give up, 10 years of draft choices for one championship, just one. So, maybe Belichick planned this all along, but it's hard for me to believe that he planned this out thinking, we're going to be losing in like 3 years or so because we're making all these moves now.
Hey, Jack, we'll interview you as the Patriots insider next week.
No, I'm asking him.
I'm giving you a hard time, Jack.
I don't know. Every time I come in the room, I set Jack off. So this is good. So it's like a Pavlovian response.
So what do you think about what Jack's saying? He's making a great point. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that is a reason, or do you think that Bill Belichick's feeling a little pressure right now?
I think he's feeling a little pressure, but I think it's probably also accurate. I mean, they did sell out the last 5 years, invested a lot of money and put them themselves in cap hell this year. But every team would say that was worth it. I mean, they won 3 Super Bowls, in that time frame. So they knew they had to pay the piper at some point. And unfortunately, it all comes to a head at the same time as Tom Brady has left the team and you don't have a quarterback. And if you watched the little vlog I did yesterday talking about the state of the Patriots, I do not think they're going to turn this around. They're going to play the Jets this Monday night, unfortunately, probably play well. Cam will play well. And there'll be some thought that, we can jump back in this. And I don't think that's the approach to take. As I said in the vlog, that I think it's time to get Cam on the bench, put Stidham in, let Stidham get reps in practice with the first team offense, and get him, more importantly, in games, because every time he's coming into a game, he's come into a tough situation, and he's not been prepared because the game is so fast. So the game is much faster, obviously, in practice, and much faster than anything he's dealt with before. And we need to see what he can do over 7 or 8 games to see if there's anything there.
Me and Jack talked about this a little bit about what Belichick said. So I'm going to follow up. I don't recall the Patriots making any huge free agent signings. I mean, Brady even took a pay cut. I can't think of one. Maybe you can, Keith, because you're closer to him. But what was their major, wide receiver signing, their major running back re-signing, their major defensive, defensive player signing? I can't recall one.
Well, there was a few guys. I mean, Rodney Harrison. Some were trades. It's hard to remember which were trades and which were free agency guys. But remember they brought in guys like Rodney Harrison, and they brought in Junior Seau for a year, Corey Dillon back in the day. So there's been Randy Moss. So there's been a few, but they weren't they probably weren't still at the top of their game. And they were always a malcontent somewhere else. They weren't out their welcome somewhere else. And Bill looks for pieces that he can use, and that's been a big part of what they've been missing this year too. Again, to regress just a little bit, it's not just the cap situation that they've been in, but the whole COVID. And again, it's not to make excuses. The team is not that good right now. But one of the things they've always relied on is all the OTAs and that time to find what guys can do, because Bill will move guys around and he finds something, some piece of skill from a guy so he can put him in the best situation to succeed. And they didn't have that this year. I mean, they didn't have the OTAs. You didn't have the same kind of training camp that you had in the past. They weren't doing any hitting. So it really puts a team like the Patriots, who rely on role players more than superstars, as you kind of just talked about, behind the 8 ball. And it's hard to catch up.
What were the expectations at the start of the year? I mean, obviously, if we talked this way a couple of months ago, people would have said, well, they think the Patriots are playoff contenders still, so on. But realistically, what do you think Belichick was expecting this year? Did he think they'd be about 8-8, 9-7, or did he really think they could contend for Super Bowl?
I don't know about the Super Bowl. I think he felt he had a team that would contend for the playoffs, and once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen, right? Mm-hmm. So 9-7, 10-6 would have been competitive in the East, might have won the division. As I said a few weeks back, here, they needed to beat the Bills twice, I thought, to win the division, but I thought 10-6 would win the division because I don't think the Bills are world beaters.
Forgetting the playoffs, how important would it be to him, assuming the Patriots beat the Jets this Monday? And it's not a lock, believe it, as crazy as it seems.
Why are they a 9-point favorite or whatever they are? I can't believe it.
Let's assume the Patriots win the game. They're 3-5. How important would it be to Belichick to get up to 8-8? Okay, because not to have a losing season isn't going to look that bad as opposed to finishing at 6-10.
I don't think he cares. He wants to be competitive. He doesn't want to be embarrassed. He probably doesn't want to have a losing season, but at the same time, I think he's going to want to find out what he's got in the room today that's going to be there next year. And that's the most important thing they can do over these last 7, what do we got, 8 games after Monday. That's the most important thing they can do is find out who's going to be around next year and what holes don't need to be filled. And number one is the quarterback.
And Stidham, let me just say something with Stidham. Cam's going to be playing Monday. There are 8 games after that. There's not going to be a big body of work. I mean, at best, realistically, Stidham's going to show you the jury's still out on him if you allow him to play. And that doesn't help moving forward because they're going to have to really address the quarterback situation next year. So let's say Stidham does get to play a few games and he looks like he's basically okay, but nothing special. What are they to do for next year?
Well, they are going to be in a much better cap situation next year, but where they can go, I don't really know about somebody who's going to be a free agent that they can chase around. Again, they don't bring him in anyway because they're not going to pay. They're not going to overpay for guys. So I think they're going to find a guy in the draft. Whether maybe first round, maybe. I don't see them. They're not going to. I heard a lot of talk about even on some of the major talk shows about the Patriots are going to tank the rest of the way out, put themselves on Trevor Lawrence. It's not going to happen, but it's not in Bill's DNA to just say, I'm going to go out and lose every game. Teddy Bruschi said it on one of the ESPN shows. I think it was one of the ESPN shows yesterday. Yeah. That's not Bill. He can't do that. He's not going to do
it. I really don't believe, Keith, that's in any professional player's DNA. The fans may want that. And to me, that's even ridiculous because you're really not.
So too.
Yeah, you're not really a fan of the team to wish them to lose anything. So, but anyway, to follow up on what you and Jack were talking about with Stedman, I think this Monday night's the perfect opportunity.
I agree.
The Jets are not even close to being competitive. We know that the Patriots should win with Cam. But what does that do for the team? It really doesn't do nothing for the rest of the way.
No.
So here's an opportunity to give that young quarterback a chance. I don't know if they gave him more reps this week or not. I sure would have done that, and I sure would want to see what he could do against a porous team than throw him up against a team that's very well put together and with no weapons. So I think this would be a perfect spot for him to be in.
I do too. If you want to build a kid's confidence and get his legs under him, this would have been a perfect spot to do it. You got the Ravens in 2 weeks. You can't do it then. I mean, you might as well throw Cam to the Wolves to get his head beat in.
Right.
What happens if Cam starts playing well the rest of the season? Now they have a dilemma for next year. Now you're shaking your head. No, you doubt it's going to happen. But let's go back a few weeks when Cam got off to that great start the first 2-3 games. People were talking about the Patriots giving him a long-term contract. Okay?
People, not me, Jack.
Now you, right, because you understand, the game so on. You don't get carried away by a game or two.
No, he's beat. It's
former league MVP. He is capable of improving a lot over what he's been doing lately. That we can all agree on. But and let's say he does look good, which is a possibility the rest of the way. Do they have any better options?
In-house, no. But that's the whole thing. You got to find a better option somewhere than Cam Newton. Cam Newton is shown to me, the last 4 games that he's not Cam Newton. He's not anywhere as close to what Cam Newton was when he was the MVP, just for sure. And even okay Cam, he's not. He's got 2 touchdowns for the entire year. It's not all his fault. I'll give you that. He doesn't have the weapons, but he doesn't make good decisions. His arm strength is horrendous, and I think he's a shell of himself. And I don't think he's any kind of answer going forward.
Me and Jack, we had a discussion about running quarterbacks. There are some really good running quarterbacks out there right now. I don't know if that is the answer to winning a Super Bowl or not. When you're back in the pocket, I played a little bit of quarterback and I ran the option, so I did run quite a bit also. But when you're back in the pocket and it's a throwing down, and you're only going to read 1 or 2, 2 of your options, and then the next move is to take off. I think that surprises the team, not just the defense, but your team. So you depend on that run so much as an outlet that you don't make that read. You don't scramble. You run instead of scrambling, like Wilson does. Wilson runs when he absolutely has to.
Right.
Young had to learn to actually read the defense and make the throws before he absolutely had to run. And you got Jackson, you got Murray out there right now, Josh Allen to a point, and also one of the ones that the modern quarterbacks that started that, Cam Newton. So you always know that you can run with the ball, and then when you're going to get hit and you're going to get hurt, and the defense is going to key on that run because they know that that's your second or third option instead of the tight end or the running back. And I think this confuses not only the defense, but confuses your offense. And I just think that Cam right now, and I know I'm doing a dissertation right now, and I don't mean to. I think Cam right now is a running back trying to throw the ball, and the defense can plan around that right now.
Yeah, I agree, and that's where the success came the first couple games of the year. I mean, they called probably in those first couple of games 15 designed runs for Cam.
Right.
That was the play, and they designed a very simple game plan where he was put in the best position to succeed, and it even worked against Seattle for the most part. They lost the game, but they played well. But as they've fallen behind in games, you can't do that anymore. He's exposed, right. And yes, running quarterbacks can be successful in the league, but not run first quarterbacks, I don't think, which is why I still think Lamar Jackson's got to prove that he can, win the ultimate game or at least get there. I don't know if you mentioned Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is not known as a runner, but Patrick Mahomes has a lot of big runs almost every big game they have. because he's gone through all his progressions. And Cam's very slow doing that. That's another problem. That's why he takes off so fast. He's very slow getting through the progressions.
What amazes me, there are young quarterback options out there that New England could address, who were drafted very high, like Josh Rosen. He wound up on the Tampa Bay practice squad. New England could have gotten him one way or the other for 7th-round draft choice. And now Dwayne Haskins is out there. And wouldn't that be something if Ron Rivera traded for his old quarterback Cam Newton for Dwayne Haskins? But you get the feeling Dwayne Haskins, a rookie unproven, wouldn't be up Belichick's alley exactly. I just want to switch off to the biggest potential soap opera the Patriots have of going to have. Whatever happened that didn't happen with Stephon Gilmore. I mean, he sold his house, put his house up for sale. He was as good as gone. You could have gotten 10-1 odds that he'd be gone, and he's still a Patriot. What the heck is going on there?
I would have bet he'd be gone myself, as we talked about here last week. But as we also talked about, Belichick wasn't giving him away. I guarantee he was holding out for that first-round draft pick. There's no way he didn't have offers. You know, I don't think the knee injury that he's got or came up with last week, it's possible it's not as serious as it was, and he was sitting out because they didn't want him to get hurt or hurt worse because they want to trade him. I'm shocked he's still on the team. I'm shocked a couple of guys are still on the team, and they didn't make any moves, but doesn't mean they won't make moves.
Might he be on there next year?
Yeah, I think Gilmore will be gone before the draft.
He won't be too happy selling his house since New England keeping up.
He's living in the stadium. He's living in the stadium with Baker Mayfield right now, Jack. So,
well, Baker needs help covering those seats when it rains.
You never know. You never know.
Right. Keith, I'm not nowhere as smart as Bill Belichick or the coaches on the staff. But I think the Patriots have got to establish something on offense. And I think they should start turning to the running game and really trying to get the running game going, at least to keep time off the clock, to maybe get field goals or touchdowns here and there. It doesn't seem – I think they're confused also, the staff is, with Cam Newton. They don't know whether to let him throw. They think, well, maybe he'll run. I think Bill Belichick has lost – he's always does something that he prepares for other teams. They say that. But he always has a foundation. And the running game got you guys through the playoffs a lot of years, not Tom Brady. The running game dominated the Rams, the Super Bowl, and dominated teams through the playoffs. And it doesn't even look like they're I don't want to say attempting. It doesn't look like it's even a priority this year. And it really confuses me.
Well, it confuses me too, and I've talked about it here a couple of times when we've said, well, what's the key to the Patriots winning this week? Well, establishing a running game. It'll help Cam. It'll help the defense. And, I mean, Harris ran for 88 yards again last week. He ran for 109 against Kansas City, or 100. He's played well, Damian Harris. And Burkhead played well last week. They ran the ball very well, but it just feels like they just won't commit. And part of that, I think, Jack, goes back to what you said, that they don't know really what to do with Cam. And I think it's partly because it's so foreign to them to have a quarterback like that. And they also don't know what he's capable of actually doing anymore the way he did. He did it for a couple of games, but there's got to be a reason they moved away from that.
Let me ask this. No one mentions Robert Kraft during this Patriot crisis year.
Ooh.
And when Bill Parcells was the coach of the Patriots, Bill Parcells, wanted to be in charge of personnel decisions, but the Patriots had their whole personnel department, and Parcells actually wasn't the guy in charge. Remember, he didn't want the Patriots to draft Terry Glenn, and they wanted to turn out to be a good pick. When did Belichick gain full control over the Patriots personnel? Because Parcells never had that.
About the day he arrived.
Yeah.
That was part of the deal. He wasn't coming without that. And that's why he didn't stay with the Jets. He wasn't going to have it. Parcells was always going to be looming over his shoulder.
Sure.
So he wanted to come to the Patriots because Kraft offered him, ironically, because Parcells left because what's his famous line was, if they want you to cook the dinner, they ought to let you shop for the groceries.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I always have a problem with Bill Parcells. He's a great coach. I just don't think he's a great guy. He's left, almost every franchise he's been with, he's left in disarray when he left. Now he brought them some success for sure, but he left them in disarray. And my lasting impression of Bill Parcells is not him turning the Patriots around after many, many, many bad years. It's that Super Bowl week that was just ruined when they played the Green Bay Packers in '96, I want to say.
Right.
And all the talk was about Parcells leaving and going to the Jets. He didn't even fly home with the team.
Wow.
Yeah.
He just kind of ruined that week for fans. And, it was obvious he was gone. Him and Kraft just, he was either going to get the power or he wasn't. So it's ironic in my mind that, 4 years later, he gives it to Belichick. But
Well, Parcells was never that good as a personnel director. Great coach.
Agreed.
If you look at some of his picks, he argued with George Young when Parcells was a Giant coach. He wanted the Giants to draft Darian O'Connor, but George Young insisted on drafting the running back Rodney Hampton, and that turned out to be the right move. When Parcells was the director of personnel for the Miami Dolphins, Matt Ryan was there for him to take. He took Jake Long, great player Jake Long, with the first overall pick. When he was in charge of personnel for the Jets, they had the chance to take Orlando Pace with the number 1 overall pick, a future Hall of Famer. He bypassed that. He traded the number 1 for number 10, a number 26, and a number 53. And the best player out of that was James Farrier. And of course, like we mentioned a while ago, he didn't want Terry Glenn to be drafted. And
I'll give you another one. He wanted Rick Meyer and not Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah. So great coach to have, but in charge of personnel, not so much.
Now Terry Glenn, Terry Glenn was a great player too when Terry Glenn wanted to play, and Parcells just beat him up.
Well, before you jump all over my hero there, let's remember that he really didn't have the power until he got to the Jets, which with the Jets, he brought them from 1-15 all the way to the playoffs. He turned the Patriots organization around.
He brought a great coach.
I got something.
Let me finish. He brought the Giants their first 2 Super Bowls in the history of their thing, and he wanted to draft Reggie White, and George Young and him got in a fight about that too. Yeah. So we talk about the bad things, the mistakes he might have made, but he also has some good players that he had a lot of input in drafting, such as Carl Banks, Fury Reasons, and players like that who went on to be all pros. So before we pile on Bill Parcells,
we're going to pile on you, Matt.
Oh, Lord.
Who said in a past show that Bill Parcells created a family-type atmosphere for the Giants.
I didn't say that.
You said it a while ago.
Bart Oates said that.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Bart Oates said Parcells was always trying to get rid of him.
Right.
And I asked Bart Oates, well, maybe he was trying to motivate you. And he said, well, if it motivated me, that was great. But he was really trying to replace me with better guys all along.
Bart Oates.
5-time Pro Bowler.
Well, that may be so, Jack, but the Pro Bowler, 3-time Super Bowl champion, said he liked the Giants because it was a family atmosphere where San Francisco was more professional. So you're with the wrong guy. I'll bring Bart Oates back out and you can talk.
Let me just add something quick about Parcells. I would never say that Bill Parcells, and I started my comments with Bill Parcells is a great coach and turned pretty much every franchise around that he went to. Maybe not Dallas, but even there he turned them around a bit.
They went to playoffs 2 years out.
They didn't get any wins, but again, they were nowhere before he got there.
Right.
But look at the way he leaves teams. Mac, as a Giant fan, you can't be happy that when he left after the second Super Bowl win, he doesn't leave until whatever March. Belichick had left to go to Cleveland, and everybody else, all their other choices were gone, and they had to hire Ray Handley because he left and made his decision.
What really happened with that was that George Young refused to hire Belichick because he said he would never hire a sloppy dresser whose biggest professional or his biggest attribute in college was playing, I forget the board. It's in my head, but he played the thing with the stick that you throw into the goal. There's contact in, and he said he would never hire him as a head coach because Bill Parcells did try to set him up to be the next head coach of the Giants.
You know what's funny about that comment? He thought Bill Belichick was a bad dresser then.
Right.
What do you think now?
So what do you think, guys? I don't know whether you've seen this. What do you think of Bill Belichick in that Subway commercial? Does that make you more likely want to go into Subway and get these sandwiches?
Not me, no, but maybe some people.
Right.
They're funny. He gets to kind of play off on his, persona.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it makes him look a little bit more, normal or natural, or maybe something that you can approach. So before we let Keith go, just a little plug for us and him at the same time. We do have a website up right now with Keith on there. He's going to be posting his vlogs on our website. Go there, check him out. Use the link if you need to, and check out his vlogs. Again, Keith is one of the most knowledgeable men when it comes to the Patriots. He also does a lot of different sports, covers a lot. He's very knowledgeable in all sports. Has a great show over there at TGI Sports. Check him out if you get a chance. And Keith, thanks again for coming in. It's a lot of fun having you here. And Jack really gets pumped up for when you come in.
He does. I love it.
The Jet Patriot game, quick prediction.
There you go.
I'm going to say Patriots 32-18.
Wow. Well, I don't know where you're going to get all that offense from.
I don't either, but we'll figure it out. Maybe
Maybe
I want the defense to score a couple of touchdowns.
Spoken like a true fan, Keith. I love you. We'll see you again, and we're trying to get Keith to come on again this week. Hopefully, we got the right date, and you might see him earlier the next Sunday. Hopefully, so he'll be joining us. But if he can't, that's fine. We love having him on every Sunday. Every Friday, getting ready for the Sunday games or the Monday night games, whatever game the Patriots are playing in. It's always a pleasure having him. Thanks again, Keith, for coming on.
Thank you, and I'll give you the heads up on that this weekend too. By the way, Mac.
That sounds really good. Thanks again for coming in, Keith.
You guys enjoy the nice weather if you're getting it there.
Yeah,
yes,
real nice.
Definitely are. Have a good one. So there you go. The incomparable, the legendary Keith Engle.
What people don't realize, broadcasters, talk show hosts, you want the teams to do well, not just because you become attached to them or you were a fan growing up, because it's good for business.
Right.
If the Jets are playing well, the Giants, the Patriots, the Eagles, the Bills, we got more good things to talk about. But when the team's really lagging, not playing well at all, it gets to be depressing. The same thing. We're just talking what went wrong, what went wrong. And especially where you don't see an end in sight. That makes it, extra difficult.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, it sounds like you're on there making excuses for the team, and you're trying to find some good things to talk about. But it's just so hard to cover a team when they're losing. I imagine if you were covering a boxer who kept losing all the time, he wouldn't last that long to begin with. But I mean, I know it's got to be tough for any sports writer, any person that covers, especially one team or an area of teams. It's hard when they're losing. As you said, you run out of things to talk about. You're making excuses. You're trying to give reasons to the fans of why they're not playing well, and it's very hard, Jack. It really is.
Yeah, and just one quick thing before we go to official timeout here. The great Al Michaels, when he started his broadcast career, people don't realize he worked for the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds, when they had Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Morgan Perez. And he went to the Giants when his contract went out because they offered him a lot more money. So he went from, he said, to something like being in Disney World every day, sold out crowds, an incredibly great atmosphere, to a depressing, cold place where the team wasn't doing well, the weather was lousy. And it made a world of difference in the work environment.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's just as important to be happy where you work, or at least to be satisfied where you work, as it is sometimes about the money, Jack. So we're going to come back after these commercials. Stay with us, folks. We got our this day in history and sports, birthdays, all that stuff where me and Jack get to discuss some of the past events. And so we'll be right back after this commercial, guys.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy. When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
You talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Yeah, welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're here live Wednesday through every Sunday at 8 to 10 in the mornings for you. We're covering all your local professional sports, New York area, to include the Buffalo Bills with the Giants and the Jets, the Eagles, and the Patriots. So for all the local fans, we're here for you Wednesday through Sunday. Tomorrow, me and Jack will have our big debate show, so tune in for that. It's a lot of fun. We had on today Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, who made it in. We had Keith Engle, our Patriots insider. So far, so good, Jack, a good show. And, we're going to keep on going through with This Day in Sports History, Jack, where we get a chance to look back a little bit in the past, talk about the events as they happened, and we'll even throw in a couple birthdays. Jack, when you're doing the show, I get a lot of messages. I get a lot of people, they're dinging me over here, trying to talk to me while we're doing the show and stuff. And sometimes I look at them, and sometimes I don't. And they don't do it in the commercial; they do it while we're talking on the air.
Wow,
so,
I don't see those, Mac. I mean,
yeah.
I just basically see our pictures and your subtitles underneath. I mean,
yeah.
You don't audible that well, do you, Mac? When you see messages, you have to audible, change the topic that you're on, and go to the topic they're asking.
Right.
It's piling on you. You got to call an audible.
I do, Jack. I do. I maybe I got to start mentioning to them that when we're live, I really can't talk. I even had had my other work try to get a hold of me yesterday while we were on the show, and they realized afterwards that I was on the show. But, if I don't answer it, of course, those phones, they just keep dinging at you, and it drives me out of my mind. I mean, honest to God, Jack, me being on a streaming show right now, trying to produce this, I'm kind of getting better at it. I'm doing okay. I'll get better at it. But technology, I am not a technology guy. And, we're out there. I'm setting up an Instagram account. I'm trying to get our website up and have it the best. I want it to be the best around, where people can go and get a lot of information about, about the show, about you and our weekly guests, and some of the people that go ahead and they come on the show and give us a lot of insight. Well, so here I am. I feel like, I don't know, a ship out of water, Jack. I really do.
Well, Mac, you got to consider that you mentioned New York, Boston, Philly, and all you're mentioning in the football teams, Boston, we follow the Patriots. They have other teams, Mac. The Red Sox, for example. I know the Red Sox had a real down year, but there's some news with the Red Sox we have to mention. Alex Cora is going to be coming back as their manager.
Yes,
and after the 1-year suspension, A.J. Hinch couldn't go back to Houston because Dusty Baker did a good job filling in for the year. So A.J. Hinch, but he got the job with the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, we mentioned
Cora's coming back to the Red Sox.
Yeah,
why not Carlos Beltran come back to the Mets?
Well, we mentioned
we
mentioned the Detroit. Him going to Detroit. We didn't mention the Red Sox thing because primarily the show. The big news is the football, and we should have mentioned that in updates, Jack. And you guys are much responsible for that as I am. I think so. So, but anyway, listen, we're learning, we're getting better, and our shows, as far as guests go and content, I think we're right on the money. So let's get to This Day in Sports History, Jack. In 1974, the first Cy Young winner goes to a relief pitcher. As far as a relief pitcher receiving the award, it was Mike Marshall. And that was really like the beginning of the floodgates opening, that relief pitchers are actually considered for the Cy Young.
Mike Marshall was a professor. He taught, college. He taught like kinesiology or something as well. And he was so big into the pitching mechanics and so on. And he picked off in the World Series the Oakland Athletics when the Dodgers played the Oakland Athletics in the 1974 World Series, which the Athletics won. That was their third straight World Series title. Charlie Finley had a pinch runner, Herb Washington. That was his innovation. The Oakland Athletics owner, Charlie Finley, who was a real flake, thinking of new things. In this day and age, it makes a little sense. They actually have stuff. Herb Washington was put in as a pinch run in the World Series, and Mike Marshall kind of fooled him and picked him off.
Right.
So much for the pinch runner, then. But Mike Marshall was really into all those analytics to the point that were really off the charts.
Yeah. I mean, Jack, I really think that analytics has been around for almost ever since baseball. It was called something different. It was done in a different way. Whether they kept notes in the dugout, which I saw a lot of managers do during the inning, or whether they did in some way tape it later on and use it to study films. And I imagine, you see there are only fans that I know in baseball that actually go out and they have their own little scorecards and fill it out. That's how much they are into stats and stuff like that. So I think
an early pioneer for all this so-called indirect analytics, believe it or not, was George Steinbrenner. In the 1970s, when he took over the team, he had walkie-talkies to position the outfielders.
Right, I remember.
And one of the things why George Steinbrenner liked Gene Michael so much, and Gene Michael worked his post-baseball career for Steinbrenner, because Gene Michael liked the idea of position outfielders, walkie-talkies. And I remember Joe Garagiola doing the game of the week, basically saying, you don't need that nonsense. Outfielders will know instinctively where to go. But now in this tech age, a guy can't take a step without him being told where to be.
Very true. Another reliever is in the news in this day in history, Jack. Bill Campbell was the first free agent signing to the Red Sox for $1 million. See, I did mention the Red Sox, Jack.
Yeah.
For $1 million over 4 years. It doesn't sound like a lot, and it compared to today's standards with the money they're getting, it's not
big money at the time.
Big money at the time, and was the first free agent to sign. So we opened the doors for all the free agency today. In 1981, Fernando Valenzuela was the first rookie to win the Cy Young Award, Jack. Great pitcher.
Fernando Valenzuela was a rock star when he first came up. You rarely get a guy like that, but once in a while you have a pitcher, he bursts onto the scene and everyone's going crazy over him. It's like wildfire. We had that with Mark Fidrich. We had that with Vida Blue. But
right.
Fernando Valenzuela, the Latin people and everyone, he was box office, like a must-see attraction whenever he pitched.
I remember that with the Mets with Doc Gooden too, Jack, when he first came on.
Doc Gooden as well. You're right.
Yeah.
KKK. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was
strikeouts putting
it
up
was
there. Yeah.
It was a big deal for the Mets at the time. Great pitcher. Ended up going to Yankees for a little bit.
And ironic, he pitched a no-hitter for the Yankees.
Yes,
that's
very true.
Mets. I mean,
that's very true. Very true.
It's unfair about that, but we'll take it. He walked a bunch of guys that game. He really struggled, but they didn't get a hit.
Very
I don't
true.
know whether you think the no-hit is an overrated thing. That's a debate for another time.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll debate that another time.
Yeah, definitely. In 1981, Larry Holmes TKOs Ronaldo Snipes in 11 for the heavyweight boxing title. Jack.
Controversial fight. In the 7th round of that fight, Holmes has only knocked down a couple of times in his career, and Ronaldo Snipes was a big underdog. He hit Holmes a right hand and floored Holmes, a very hard knockdown. Holmes got up and staggered into the turnbuckle, but then he kind of recuperated. And then in the 11th round, when he was teeing off on Snipes, the fight was stopped.
Yeah.
But the moment it was stopped, Snipes complained. To this day, Ronaldo's very bitter. He feels Holmes has given too much time to recover, and the fight shouldn't have been stopped, and so on. But it was quite a scare that Snipes did put into Holmes that fight.
It seems like in boxing, there's a lot of that, and we've had Iceman John Scully talk about it. When actually to call the fight, when not to call the fight, when to throw in a towel, not to throw in a towel, and I think that boxing has come a long way as far as safety goes. That's for sure. I mean, especially after the death in the ring. But I mean, I see a lot of fights, Jack, where it seems, and I know it's not true, but it does seem that the ref does favor one of the other boxers, especially if the ones you're a fan of.
Well, no, safety, we've come a long way in boxing as far as the safety protocols go. Otherwise, we haven't. I'm not going to go over the examples now, but there are a bunch of incompetent referees out there. And their criteria for stopping a fight is whether the guy who's under duress can punch back and defend himself. But meanwhile, there's a lot of cumulative punishment being taken. It affects the fighters in later years, maybe 20, 30 years down the road. Some of them, on rare instances, die during a contest, in the later rounds of a fight. They just don't understand when to stop a fight. And the sad part about it is the physicians don't get it either.
Oh my God!
And I served for 10 years on the board of directors of the American Association of Professional Ringside Physicians, and those guys are dedicated. Believe me, very dedicated for the safety. But I've seen too many fights where the doctor should step in between rounds. The criteria should not be whether or not the fighter could defend himself. It should be on how much punishment they're taking. Just because they can take headshots and stand up and fight back, the fight shouldn't be continuing, to a point where they're getting hit too much. They're dehydrated in the later rounds of a fight. They've entered the danger zone, and it's disgusting to see how long some fights go on.
Jack, I read an article. I was reading about Muhammad Ali, especially in his later years, and especially about the Larry Holmes fight, where the physician for Muhammad Ali quit, and something like that, where he said that Angelo Dundee and the staff should be brought up on charges for the way they put Muhammad Ali in there when he had a problem touching his nose with his finger and standing on one foot. And he said there was no way that Muhammad Ali should have even gotten the ring at that late a date with Larry Holmes. And so, I can tell that the physicians are they're not worried about the next fight. They're not worried about promoting and making money. And even your cornermen or your trainers or your managers, in some cases, they affect whether a fighter gets hurt or not in later years. And it was a shame. That fight was a shame.
Well, Dr. Bertie Pacheco, he was only in the business because of Angelo Dundee, because Angelo Dundee let him work the corners for years before Muhammad Ali, became big time. And Angelo Dundee only had so much power there. He wasn't really in charge of Ali at all, not in the slightest. That's a mirage. Ali was very fond of Angelo Dundee. He liked him tremendously. But outside of Dundee giving him the towel and this and that, and Dundee did try to impart advice, he was to Ali an insurance policy, basically, and a good one he was.
Yeah.
Because when Ali got knocked down against Henry Cooper and went back to the corner at the end of the round, he got knocked down just before the round ended, and then when he got up, the bell rang. Dundee noticed Ali had a little tear in his glove early in the contest, and Dundee decided he was going to keep it quiet in case they needed it. Well, guess what? Ali went back to the corner. Dundee helped the tear along. So they delayed it a few extra seconds. Against Sonny Liston, Ali wanted to quit in the corner because some of the solution that Sonny Liston had on him, Monsul solution, got into Ali's eyes. It was burning tremendously.
Wow.
Ali was blinded. Dundee knew it would clear. He lifted Ali up and he pushed him out. Imagine he'd let Ali quit.
Wow.
Okay, it was stuff like that. And and Dundee, when he was training Sugar Ray Leonard, when he was in his corner in the famous first fight with Tommy Hearns, Dundee's words to Leonard at the end of round 12, "You're blowing it, son."
Yeah.
And Leonard credits that with pushing his buttons and waking him up to come on to stop Hearns to win the fight. But the Ali situation, he shouldn't have been allowed in the ring against Holmes because you could tell his speech was thick before that.
Sure.
He'd have tests done at the Mayo Clinic, he wouldn't be passing. And Dr. Bertie Pacheco, he was correct in that instance. What Ali was doing in the ring, he saw the medical reports, didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, it was, it was the first thing that I really read that was kind of back scenes with Ali during that fight, and it really shocked me. In 1990, Dave Justice wins the Rookie of the Year, Jack, and of course he did play with the Yankees later on. Great ball player, maybe not as great as some people thought he would end up being, but he was a good, solid ball player even for the Yankees when he ended up with them. In 1993, Jack, up your alley again, Evander Holyfield beats Riddick Bowe in 12 for the heavyweight title. Now, I just question.
And that was the second fight of their three. Bowe won the first and the third.
Right.
That's the fight, if you recall, Mac, with Fan Man coming from the sky.
Yep.
Okay, and then getting caught on the ropes, and then them pounding on him.
Yes. The question for you about Holyfield, Jack. A lot of people think he was a dirty fighter, that he headbutted a lot, that he used elbows and stuff like that. I got nothing but respect for that guy. That guy was a warrior. He may not be, maybe not in the same class as a Foreman, Ali, and the greatest of the greatest. But man, he gave it everything he got every fight he did.
I don't want to call Holyfield a dirty fighter. Let's put it this way. He used his head an awful lot. And one judge, and I'm not going to say who the judge was because the judge told it to me off the record, who scored one of Holyfield's fights and didn't score it is as well for Holyfield as that judge should have. That judge told me they were disgusted with the way Evander was intentionally using his head. Now, Evander's thing is he compares it to basketball, getting in position quicker.
Right.
So his head got there first. But Evander had that reputation with butting, and that set Mike Tyson off in the ear-biting fight.
Yeah.
Evander would constantly be butting. You know what I didn't ask? Evander has a son, Elijah Holyfield, that played for Georgia. Last I heard, he's on the Philadelphia Eagles practice squad.
Okay,
Elijah
cool.
Holyfield, the last I heard.
Yeah, right. But I tell you, he may not be the greatest. He might have been a little bit, that was a knock against Roberto Duran, too, that he might have been a little bit dirty. Very aggressive fighters. Roberto Duran having an unbelievable career. But, I do respect the man. In 1995, Jack, Art Odell officially announces the Cleveland Browns moving to Baltimore, and boy, what a fit Cleveland threw. I mean, it was. I don't blame them. They did end up letting them keep the name of the Browns, and they took on the Ravens name. But in the middle of the night, they said he packed up the trucks and left Cleveland. And the Cleveland fans.
Well, Modell didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave. The city wouldn't get him a new stadium. The question is, should they get a new stadium? Okay.
Right.
City wants a team to be there because of certain revenue it could create, tourism, this and that. But you're building a house for someone else to profit on their business as well. And I'm not sure what the answer is to that, but cities traditionally help out with stadiums. We know that. They help out Mets and Yankees,
Sure.
Yankee Field, City Field, so on.
Sure. And it's the reason, one of the big reasons why the Giants and Jets moved to New Jersey. I mean, listen, Steinbrenner wanted Yankee Stadium to be Yankee Stadium. He didn't want them playing there anymore.
I don't blame him.
And New York wasn't gonna go ahead and build the Giants their own separate stadium, or
West Side Stadium, Mac.
Right.
Imagine what that would have done for the city traffic.
Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable.
Monday night game. Imagine getting back from work in the city.
Oh my God. It's bad enough now, Jack, going to a couple Giant games and Yankee games that I've been to. In birthdays, Jack, Walter Johnson, Hall of Fame pitcher, born in 1887. What can you say about the man? One of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball.
Why don't you give me a trivia question I can answer correct? What was Walter Johnson's nickname? The Big Train.
Right. Well,
don't give me questions.
It's too easy for you, Jack.
Questions, yeah.
And in 1968, Jack, Chad Curtis, who played for both the Yankees and the Tigers, was born in 1968. A good ball player, nothing to get really excited about, but he was a good, steady, solid baseball player. So that finishes our birthdays, Jack. It's been a good show. We of course had our weekly guests on. Keith Engle and Byron Williams will come on every Friday. Tomorrow we have our big debate show. We will also have Dr. Paul Semendinger, who runs a popular blog called Start Spreading the News, should be joining us. He's scheduled to join us. Very knowledgeable about baseball. Maybe we'll be able to get him in one of our debates again. It's always fun to have him on. So, folks, we'll see you. We had a lot of fun. Join us again tomorrow, where me and Jack start debating all the popular topics and people in sports. So have a great day, everybody. Jack, we'll see you tomorrow. And folks, enjoy your Friday.
Great time.